Now stand by for the Midnight News, as recorded from WBBM in Chicago.
With the news edition every minute, this is the electric newspaper, WBBM Chicago, News Radio 78.
This is Alan Bickley. It's 11 o'clock.
CBS News, Christopher Glenn reporting on the CBS Radio Network. Former President Truman's condition at Research Hospital in Kansas City has changed little throughout the course of the day and evening. The last medical report some 4 hours ago saw the doctors again noting continued weakening on almost all fronts of his struggle for life. Mr. Truman's wife, Bess, attended her husband's bedside all day. His daughter, Margaret, returned to Kansas City from New York tonight. Both women left the hospital for the family home in Independence a few hours ago. We'll have more news after this.
This is Charles Jordan on December 26, 1972, and the time is coming up to 6 p.m. The former president died, and now here is a tape recording concerning this from WCBS in New York.
Covers the world at 6.
This is The World Tonight. Good evening, I'm Douglas Edwards, CBS News. This Christmas season has been a profoundly disturbing one for much of the world. Not a season of birth, but one of war and bombing now resumed. Of natural disaster, now followed by the human chaos of fear and looting. And finally, for all Americans, the national loss of a former president who had so much of each of them that it was also a personal loss. President Nixon has paid tribute to him as one of the most courageous presidents in our history, a fighter who was at his best when the going was toughest. Lyndon Johnson is also an authority on Harry Truman.
History is just, and Harry Truman will live on in the memory of free people as one of the greatest men to lead freedom's cause.
Barry Goldwater, another American original, didn't go along with a lot of what Harry Truman thought was right, but he didn't underestimate him.
Harry Truman may well become to be regarded as the best president we've had in this century. It may sound strange for me to say that because I disagreed with the president on many things that he did, but I always agreed with his ability to make decisions. This is something that we've lacked in our leaders throughout this century, with the exception of Mr. Truman.
Averill Harriman made a similar point about the 33rd president's decision-making, and Harriman had worked for him.
Well, he used to ask his advisors not what were his options, which seems to be the fashion of the day. He used to ask us what was our judgment on a very simple and direct question. What do you think is the right thing to do? He didn't ask us what would be popular or what was expedient, but what was the right thing to do. And after he'd gotten advice of the people that he thought he should, didn't care whether they agreed with him or not, he made his own decision. And he felt he'd done the best he could, and he went home, went to sleep. He didn't worry about his decisions, and therefore he was ready for another tough one the next day.
President Nixon has proclaimed Thursday, the day of the funeral, a national day of mourning. All federal offices are to be closed, flags flown at half-mast for 30 days.